But I remember after some time, my dad comes to the Astrovan, and I don't know, it was just a fluke. And he like sees my foot on top of the van. He climbs up the ladder, and I just remember my dad like, grabbing me, kind of consoling me. I'm shivering, takes me back to the room, and we just, you know, close the night down just like that. But the takeaway from that moment, Aaron, is of how strong I was. I knew from that moment that I was different, that no matter what, I can get through adversity. And so I think that was the defining moment where I was like, okay, I'm going to lean into this strong-willed, strong-minded, strong individual kid that I am. And that's what I've done my whole life. I just lean into really being this strong individual. But now growing up in my life, um, I've tried to take a back seat to being strong. And I'm trying to be now more vulnerable, because being strong it's important in life. But also too, you don't want to be too strong that you can't let people in on your journey, who you are, and stories that are going to connect. Maybe, with some of the listeners just like this, right? I'm sure that these people out there have their own trials and tribulations. And that's what I'm looking to lean into is what was that defining moment in our life that made us choose who we're going to be, and kind of molded us into the person we are today. But now, were there good things about that person, or was there bad things about that person? And how can we change those? Because as we get older, we want to make sure that we're changing for the better, not for the worst, right? So I hope that answers your question. I think that was the pivotal moment in my life where I was like, this is who I am. My mind is like a rock, and no matter what, I can't be broken. And that was the moment that really defined like who Ryan Larson was. And that's why, this podcast is going to be so fun to talk about, is just stories and connecting with people and like-minded individuals. So
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And last but not least, what can people look forward to on future episodes? Why would someone want to subscribe and tune in? I think you mentioned it a couple of times before, but we'll give you one last opportunity to really, kind of let the audience or listeners know what they can expect.
You're going to expect just a very laid back podcast with really good people. I'm going to search out individuals who are going to be impactful, who are going to be dedicated, motivated to provide value for the listeners. I want to make sure that when we talk about something, we lean into, once again, either trials or tribulations that are going to be takeaways for the listeners to, implement in their daily lives. And maybe they could just, go back to the story that I just mentioned. And what are the takeaways from that story? Or what are some things that maybe you felt that you connected with? Because that's what I'm looking to do. I want to connect to the listeners, and I want the podcast, the guests that are coming on the podcast, to connect with the listeners as well. And I think connection and building that community and building that tribe comes through just breaking down those barriers of who people might think you are, but then you get to show them who you really are. And that's what I'm excited for, is to show, the audience and connect with the listeners who I am, who the guest is, and takeaways that continue to make us better in life.
Yep. Okay, amazing. Well, I think that wraps it up for today's episode. Any last thoughts, or you good to go?
Yeah, I'm excited. Just check back in with us. Keep jumping on these episodes. Once again, this is it's been a difficult morning for me already, but connecting with you, Aaron, it's been so exciting. Launching this podcast, it's been a long time coming, and it's something that I'm very excited to produce, to get out into the social media world. And yeah, I'm thrilled that Lounge with Larz is up and running, and I'm gonna keep cranking for you guys. I appreciate it.